everyone, and welcome to the first episode of season 2 of the Multiple Birth Experience podcast. I'm your host, Hala Imad, and joining me today is Laverne. Laverne is a fellow twin mum like myself, and today we are going to touch on a number of things, but mainly solely motherhood, raising twins, and pretty much everything that's going on in her life. I'm hoping that she inspires one of you guys out there, any of you guys. And if you have any questions, you can always drop it in the comments, anything like that. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. So Laverne, hi Laverne, welcome to the Multiple Birth Experience podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm good. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be able to share my experiences of multiple birth. I think it's so funny because I've never really had conversations with twin mums, obviously had conversations with yourself before, but being able to actually share it with the rest of the world, I think is important as well.
Exactly. You should never know who you're going to touch, and that's what we're here for, is to inspire, teach, learn, and just, help each other, build a community, build a village, on pretty much what we were talking about the other day, So yeah, let's get straight into it. So Laverne, tell us what, tell us your name, tell us what you do, tell us how many, just a bit of the bits about you, just to kickstart the conversation.
Okay, so I have 3 children. I have a set of twins, they're 19, and I have a daughter who is 13. Mm-hmm. I don't have twins in my family as such. My granddad, I think my granddad's brother had twins, and then even on the dad's side, his uncles are twins, but it was never really thought of. I wasn't sitting there thinking, "Oh, my first kids are going to be twins, isn't it?" I remember having a conversation about it one day with your sister, just about kids in general, and it would be great if I had twins. Yeah, because you might have twins, but it was never something that I actually believed would happen. So when I found out I was pregnant,
don't think about it.
And one of the things for me with that, with the pregnancy with the twins, I didn't know I was actually pregnant until almost 6 months.
Wow, 6 months.
So they were basically sitting on my back. So when I was younger, one of the things I didn't really do was I wasn't one who wrote down the time of the month in the diary and stuff like what other people did. So I was just getting on with life, and I didn't have no morning sickness. I didn't have none of these things. And it was one day when and I had spotted like a few times, when my mind went back. But it was my the father of my children, the twins. His mum was like, "Oh, you look like you're putting on a little bit of weight. I think you should have a pregnancy test." So I was thinking, all right,
you just went straight for the gun and said pregnancy test.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, all right, I'll do that, because I know I ain't pregnant in it, because I haven't had no symptoms, blah blah blah, going on and carrying on. And then I had to pregnancy test it, and I was pregnant. I was like, oh my goodness.
Did it come up pregnant straight away, or did it
Well, I had a clear blue, it was straight away. And then I thought, you know what, I need to know like how many months gone I am. So I made up some whole lie. Went to the hospital.
As you do,
Made up some lie, talk about I got beaten up and stuff, and
oh my gosh,
because I needed to go.
Beaten up,
And they were like, okay. They asked me when last I had my menstrual cycle, and I was just like, maybe a few weeks ago. And then they done me a scan. They said, look, we're going to do you a normal scan first, and then if we can't see anything, then we might ask to do a vaginal scan. So I was just like, what's that? Anyway, they basically done the scan, and then they were just whispering. I was just like, why are they whispering for? And then I was on my own. I was just like, no, but why are they whispering for? So I started getting a bit, I was young, so I started getting a little bit rude. I was like, no, but why are you lot whispering? Because actually, what's going on? Like, I need to know what's happening. So they were like, shall we tell you the good news, or shall we tell you the slightly more better news? So I was just like, look, I just want to know the news, innit? Like, just tell me what's going on.
I don't know what I came here for,
So they were like, okay, well, the good news is, there's been no damage to children, the egg's fine, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, okay. And then she was like, yeah, there's not one in there, there's two. I was like, what? I was like, no, I don't understand what you're saying. So then they showed me the scan, because again, they showed me the scan before, but never been pregnant before and stuff. I didn't know what I was looking at, even looking at on the screen.
Yeah, you know what you're looking at.
So then when they showed me, I was just like, wow. And then all that came in my head was a rewind of the conversation I had with your sister. I was like, oh my gosh, I pulled this down on myself. And I was like, it was
like a powerful tool.
Yeah, and I felt like I was excited, but then at the same time, I was like, no, this is a lot, because I forgot to say, but I had the twins 2 weeks to my 18th birthday.
Oh wow!
So that time, that would have been just before. Yeah, so I would have been around 17 that time. And I was like, no, this is mad. And then all I started thinking about my parents, oh my God, they're going to be so ashamed of me. And all these mad thoughts started coming in my head. And then I was thinking, what am I going to tell him though? Yeah. No, but this is mad. The good thing was that we were in quite a balanced, harmonized relationship. So, yeah. But when I told him, he was like, he actually said, you're chatting shit. Yeah. I was like, what? He was like, no, you're talking rubbish. And even when I went back to the house and I showed him the scan, he was still confused until we went back to the hospital.
Yeah, you know what he was really looking at. But when they were showing you the scan and they were saying there's two in there, did they not like point out what you're looking at?
Yeah, they pointed it out to me, and then when I went home and I pointed it out to him on the scan, he was just still not convinced in it.
Yeah, it didn't hit him basically.
No, it really didn't. And things went so quickly because obviously where I was almost 6 months, after that it literally flew. There was a lot of times I had to go into hospital because they felt that they were not
showing.
Nope. I think when I started showing was like the 8th month. And literally I started to blow up like a balloon. Like it was literally every other day.
Really? So when you got to that 8 months and you started showing, how big did you balloon up to? Because some people have that little small baby bump.
Yeah. So that's the wickedest thing. I did definitely have a small bump. Like it wasn't compared to when I had.
I can recall you having a bump, but obviously I don't know how far you was at that time when I saw you.
Yeah. No, it wasn't big. To me, it was quite tiny. I'd consider the fact that there was 2 in there. And so I was having to go in, I'm thinking if it was every week, but maybe it was every 2 weeks. I had to literally go in and they would do measurements and stuff. And one of the things that they did say to me was that, wow, okay, so the twins they're growing, but they're kind of small. So they wanted to give them an injection in their lungs to mature their lungs.
Both of them?
Yeah. So I ended up having to do that. I think at that time they were maybe about 2.5 pounds or something.
Wow. But you know what? Yeah, I find that when they say the measurement, sometimes that's not even the case. Because I remember when my sister was pregnant with twins, and she ended up making her have them early because of that. The whole small thing, and when they came out, they weren't even that size.
Yeah, and it's funny because when the boys came out, they were 4'2" and 4'9". So one of them had been sucking more, quite a lot more nutrients than the other one. But they were both fine. They never needed any type of oxygen to breathe through their nose. They never needed that. The only problem was that they're suckling. So when it came to being able to have breasts, that wasn't possible. So they had to get fed. Yeah. So they had to get fed through a tube. So this was another thing. So in relation to, they had their own separate sacs, yeah? Now they normally say that when they have their own separate sacs, they tend to come out looking non-identical. So how it was for me was actually they're supposed to be non-identical. And it was so funny because when I look at pictures of when they were young compared to now, it's almost like they started off not looking as much like each other, and now they're literally identical.
That's why I was confused. Like, hold on a minute, are they identical or not? Because I'm sure they weren't, but then they look so much alike. And when they were young, it was mad because you could see the one who got the better nutrients in the womb, because his face was kind of round and chubby, whereas the other one kind of looked a bit more skinnier.
Now they've just balanced out. They're not any. It's just like they're exactly the same. Their shoe size is the same. This is man.
That is good, man. So then, how did the family take it? Like, like parents, his parents, how were their reaction when hearing the news, or how, the whole process of everything?
So his mum was fine. She was quite excited, actually. At that time, I was living in her house as well. So, she was excited.
Well, she was the one that told you to take the test anyway.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So she was quite excited. I told my mum first, but I actually didn't tell her. I kind of like went with my god sister. My god sister told her. And then I kind of had spoken to her after that, and she was a little bit disappointed, but she had to obviously accept it because this is what it was.
Yeah.
My dad, he was a bit anti-boy. I don't think I spoke to my dad until like twins were about 4 months old or something. And that was because I happened to be at my granddad's house with them, and he came. And he just kind of looked at them like, okay. It was really weird. It was proper awkward as well. But again, I think I had to get over the fact that they're here, so they have to get over it. Whether or not they're upset, I mean, there's nothing I can do. It is what it is. I did have a lot of support though in relation to family, extended friends, and
that's what's important.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it didn't take them long to kind of get over it eventually, though, innit?
Yeah. Once the twins were born, my mum was like in there and always around, and which was nice.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Their nan though, their dad's mum was very hands-on. She used to leave bottles ready in the morning before she used to go work. She was a school teacher. So I just had to wake up and feed them, obviously it was nice to have her to be able to cook in the house and stuff. So I was with her. I stayed there until the twins were about 7 months, and then I moved out to start my own.
You're on your own?
Yeah, to being on my own.
But wasn't that not that a scary feeling? Because it's like, when you are at the hospital. Well, me, when I had mine, I was in hospital for like a week after, for a week after I had them. So when I knew I was gonna go home, it was like a scary feeling that, okay, I've had all this support in the hospital. Now when I leave, I'm gonna have to do it all my own, and it was like a scary kind of feeling. You had all that support for 7 months with his mum and things like that, didn't you? Was you nervous having to like now go on your own by yourself? Not by yourself, but you're not gonna have that 24-hour round-the-clock support like you did with your with their grandmother. How was you feeling when you was ready to move on your own?
So I'm just gonna give a little. Again, I'm going to go back a little bit, and then I'm going to come forward. But basically, when I moved out, I was very independent by that time because I had looked after my brother and sister before that. So I was kind of used to looking after 2 children from quite young, even though my brother and sister are a year apart.
Okay.
So I kind of had the experience.
You kind of was prepared already.
Of juggling the 2. Plus, the boys were quite well behaved, to be honest. I usually fed one after the other, and that was that until they were obviously ready to hold their own bottles, and that, which was like 6 months. So it wasn't as much as it was a big change because I was living by myself. I felt that it was time for me to start being able to manage them on my own as well. And just to go back a little bit, when I had the twins, so I randomly went into labour. Which is why they wanted to mature their lungs, because I had a short cervix. And that was one of the things that they had spoken about in the beginning. So I actually had the twins at 37 weeks. So I kind of just went into labour. Now, I was in labour for 12 hours. So in the beginning, I was doing all this huffing and panting and trying to...
Wait a minute, Laverne. Did you push?
Yeah, I'll get there. So when I went into labour, and then so they were saying, okay, cool, we're gonna try and do this thing natural. I was just thinking to myself, natural where? So what, me? What, little old me? Nah, sorry. And I think within the first maybe 4 hours, I was like, listen, I can't take this pain. This is a lot. Nah, this is a lot. This is just a lot. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but you see, when you have, I can only say it now that I've had another child.
Yeah.
When I had the twins, now the labour pains were like they were worse. They were definitely worse. For me, they were worse. It was almost like you were getting labour pains twice over. Yeah. So for me, it was a lot. So they had decided that actually, okay, we're going to give her epidural. And I remember the first injection. I remember feeling all the cold going down my spine and all sorts of things. But then after that, the lack of control that I had, it was a lot. So, for instance, I remember them telling me to push, and I'm saying to myself, I can't even feel nothing, like to be pushing and stuff. So what ended up happening was, as I was beginning to give birth to the first one, the other one was in distress, and there was all these problems and things was happening. And all I remember is having an injection, and I just remember seeing this bright light, and then after I was sleeping in it.
Yeah. Oh.
So I ended up having emergency cesarean. So they ended up reversing the one child whose head was beginning to come out. And then, so then they had to take him out.
Put him back in.
Yeah, it was crazy. I don't think I was awake until the next day. So that would have been the 14th of March. At that time, I'd been told I'd lost so much blood. When I woke up, I remember opening my eyes and I could feel my body shivering, and it was weird. I had so many blankets on me. I remember that because I remember feeling heavy, like I was trying to get up, but I could feel all the blankets that were on me. So basically what happened is that when they had been taking the twins out, I had lost a lot of blood. So I had to have blood transfusion, and hence why, because it was so much blood they had given me, hence why my body was a bit, it was almost like it didn't want to accept the new blood. And so so that was that. Yeah, so when I woke up, I just remember I was shaking, and I remember my mum was there, and my mum said to me, she was telling me that I almost died. And I was just like, what?
That sounds traumatizing.
Yeah, that was a lot. I just remember saying, but where's the twins though? And that time they'd been transferred down to this the unit that they would call the SCABU unit. And so they were letting me know how they were doing and whatnot, what have you. I got shown pictures. So I'm like, okay, but I wouldn't see them though.
Yeah, so you didn't even get to see them?
No, so I didn't get to see Ken and Kumani properly until like the third day. I think that was like the 16th of March or the 15th of March. And I had to be wheeled in a wheelchair down there because I still had a catheter in and all that type of stuff. And I was still quite weak from the stitches. So I had to be in a wheelchair and seeing them. That was when I properly was like, wow.
Yeah.
I touched him and everything. And at that time, Kamani, so he was the one who weighed less. He had like a drip and certain things in his arm, and he just looked so much more feeble than the other one. And I was a little bit careful because they were also ready to bring for me to have one of them lay by my bedside the next day. But I just felt uncomfortable with just having one and leaving the other downstairs.
Yeah.
So I was very
guilty.
Yeah, I was adamant that they need to stay together until the other one was better to come out.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks after that, I think I was in hospital for another week.
Yeah.
And then they said it was time to go home. So I was just like, what? So they're like, yeah, because you could come and visit them every day. What? I was like, no, sorry, I won't be leaving my kids.
They stayed in hospital while you have to go home.
Basically, I was like, listen, I won't be leaving my kids here. I'm sorry. If they're staying, I'm staying in it. I'm not going anywhere. So then they were talking about, this was King's College. So at the time, they had like some houses across the road. Yeah. Where the Maudsley ended up turning into Maudsley. But they had some house over there, and they said, yeah, because you can go and stay. And I was like, no, but I'm not going over there. And then it turned out that it didn't even have any spaces over there. So I was like, look, I'm just letting you know, I will not be leaving this hospital until my kids leave this hospital. Yeah. So they had to keep me there, until it was time for the boys to go home.
That's good. You put your foot down.
Yeah, no, I had
that whole bonding thing. I mean, I had to stay in hospital, so it's not like they could have gone home by themselves without me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the difference. But I remember my sister having to do that same thing, but she left. She was staying with me at the time, and so we kept coming into the hospital to obviously see them after they discharged her, because they were still in ICU.
Yeah.
So, and I can just imagine, I can't even imagine. I mean, I can imagine now, but you know, at the time was just like, oh my gosh, they were so tiny, having to leave them, and you know, your thought process of being not there with them, and you're thinking, are they okay? And yeah, man, it's just, you're strong, girl, man, you're strong.
It was a lot, but you know what? After that, it was almost like it didn't take long for me to properly be able to just heal, and then obviously be able to pick them up, and it was fun. I remember taking them home. And being so thankful to the hospital for everything that they've done. And then taking them home for their first bath, and that was just like, that was great.
That's when the real work began, isn't it? The real work began. Really good. So then, how was okay? You've brought them home. Now you're on your own. How did you get into the swing of things? Like, so was you on maternity leave at the time? Was you working? You know, was you juggling? Before
I had the twins, I was actually in college. So I weren't doing nothing. I've done a few courses at some little bakery learning place down in Brixton. I've done a few courses. So I was wanting to push to the legal secretarial side of things. But at that time I weren't working. So when it came to routines, one of the things that I was very adamant on is in the night time when they've got to be fed. So I would have a specific time to say, all right then, well, do you know what? We give them a bath, start settling them down at this particular time. I think it was about 7. And so in the night time, if they woke up, I wouldn't turn the light on. I'll just feed them, burp them, put them back to bed. So for me, and one of the reasons why I've done that is because I thought to myself, okay, but if it's nighttime, then I shouldn't put the light on, because then it's going to make them feel like, well, it's the daytime, so actually they can play. So I was thinking of loads of things that where a child's mind may go, even though they were so tiny. I was like, no, I can't do this, because I'm not going to be up at 1:30, 3 o'clock in the morning playing and jumping and doing all sorts of smiley faces and all this stuff. I was like, no, I need to get my sleep as well. So by the time we left their nan's house and I was living alone, they were already used to a routine. So it was just about continuing to follow that routine. And what was great for me was the fact that they played quite a lot. And I had a few things that I used to do. So there was a place called Tumble Tops that I used to go to in Herne Hill quite regular. That was like 3 times a week. So I tried to do things to keep us busy. They had a 1 o'clock club, a Brockwell Park.
Covering baby groups and stuff.
So it also used to make them quite tired. So by the time it was time for bedtime, there was no, the only thing that I did find was we had 2 of everything. But them sleeping in separate cots almost wasn't it wasn't going to be nothing for them. They refused to be in a cot. Like, they used to scream down the place to be in separate cots. So when they slept together, they would fall asleep so much quicker as well. But because they had each other, obviously as the older they got, sometimes bedtime was a little bit nice, and they'll be in their room having a chat, playing for like the next half an hour. But so then I had to factor in, you know what, okay, I'm going to send this bed half an hour earlier, just so that they have that time to mess about and talk to each other and whatever before they fell asleep. But and it worked. They would be in the room whispering to each other or saying whatever they were saying, and, you know, having their little language. And it was quite nice to see. And then I'd go back in the room now, and then they'd be fast asleep.
So the beauty is that they have each other, each other's company, and
and I think that was one of the things that helped me to sleep quicker, because they had each other.
When I
had my daughter now, I remember having to fall asleep with her and then creeping to get up, making sure that, and she was a light sleeper. So when you moved, it's almost like she knew that you left the room or left. And the boys were very good. There was a lot of noise, because obviously I used to be tidying up when they were sleeping. So they were used to the Hoover and all sorts of noise, and they could sleep through that. So that was great for me.
And you know what, as well, I find with you, because you had twins first, by the time you had your daughter, it wasn't like he was neglecting the twins, because you was able to focus. You have some time on, like focus on the little one, the baby, your daughter, and then the twins were old enough to kind of like keep each other, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like the other way around where, okay, you had the first, you had the daughter first and then you had the twins after. Because the twins are like, would be more of a handful for you, innit? And it would take a lot of time away from the single child.
Yeah. But it's so funny though, because I feel like I did more stuff. I had to entertain my daughter way more than I had to do the twins. And I don't know if it's because she's a girl.
She's a girl and she's on her own.
So I found that there was so much more time I had to spend with her and factor in, mummy and daughter time as well as the time for each of the boys. But there's 6 years between them. So for me, it wasn't as daunting as I kind of had thought it might be when I got pregnant with her. And I kind of
a head start as well.
And I kind of ensured and told them from obviously the beginning. When I found out I was pregnant with my daughter quite early. And one of the things that I was very adamant about is understanding that they're going to have another sibling. And they're going to have to embrace her and include her. How old were they when you had them? They were 6.
Okay.
So I used to make them get involved quite a lot. So if I'm bottle feeding her, I would ask them to get involved. And so it might be Kane today and Kamani tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? I would ask them to do little things. Like, just check on the baby, see if she's and little things. One of the things they had to do though was when she did have her sleep time, they kind of had to be a bit quieter in the house because she was a very light sleeper. I think that kind of probably got on their nerves a bit. but
it was an adjustment, and they were still young at the time,
but they did it quite well, to be fair. And there was a lot. I made sure I kept them quite entertained as well. And by the time I had my daughter, they were into a routine of going to their dads every other weekend. So that was a help. And even in the beginning, before I had her, that was one of the things. They used to go to their nans every weekend. So I really had Monday to Friday duties. And hence why I was able to then find a job and get them into nursery and stuff, which was quite cheap actually at the time compared to now. Like, wow, what I said was my school fees, my nursery fees was I think £1,200, £600 each. And now I've heard that for one child, it's like £1,200 for the month.
It is ridiculous now.
I'm just like, wow.
The things that I couldn't do because of just that one thing was just crazy. Even now with after school clubs and stuff like that, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous, So it's almost like you dodged, let me not say a bullet, but you dodged it having yours early, trust me.
Even there was things that was offered that don't get offered now, like the Sure Start maternity grant. I remember getting that. They don't even offer things like that anymore.
Really?
For people who, I think it was like £500. So obviously I got £1,000. And those times when you were young, it was like, wow, £1,000, that's great. But they don't provide those things. And I even remember how I got my job through Connections. I don't know if you remember Connections. They were like an organisation who helped young people.
I do remember them,
and they're the ones who helped me to get my job. So I walked into a probation job in 2003. October 2003. So the boys would have been 1.5 by then. And then I started it was almost like a trainee position. It was like an apprenticeship. And then that's where I started in relation to career. And before that, I used to do a little bit of voluntary work here and there for an adventure playground. So that kind of gave me some experience of
working with people and stuff. So then now that you're a working mum now, so juggling career, working mum. You said that childcare wasn't as expensive as it is now, but then they're getting older. Obviously, they're getting, personalities are changing. They're going into secondary school. They're growing into young boys. How was how were they in that transition? Because you're working now. Was it full-time you was working?
Yep.
Full-time you're working, so a lot of time is, you've got a lot of time away from the kids, and you're seeing, maybe you might be seeing changes in their personality as they're growing up, becoming young boys, young men. How did you find that, having to juggle that, and then your daughter being a young little girl, she's not a baby no more? How did you find the whole transition and having to be a working full-time mum in that field of career field? Because that could be, I think, is that demanding? I'm assuming that kind of position is demanding.
Probation involved helping offenders to rehabilitate themselves in the community. And I did have to do a lot of prison visits and certain things. I think in the beginning, it was okay because they were in primary school. They might come home and read that little book. But as time went on, so in 2008 is when I had my daughter. When I had my daughter, shortly after I had my daughter, I remember it being the boys' birthday. They had a little party, and then basically I got robbed in my house. And so that was where things began to just change a bit and go a bit downhill, because after that, so this was unknown people. I'd thought it was a Sunday. The boys were coming back from their nans. I had my daughter in my hand. I answered the door. There was these two guys there talking.
Hold on a minute. They robbed you while you was in the house?
Yeah, so basically they knocked on my door. I thought it was the twins. So I'm there having a chat on my phone. So like when you've opened the door and then kind of walked off because you thought, and I'm like, hi, boys. And I was thinking, hold on, I'm not hearing nothing. So there was these two boys, young boys, probably about 19, 20, standing at my door. I was like, hello. They were like, oh, is so-and-so there? I was like, what? No, sorry, no one don't live there called that name. So as I went to shut the door, the person put their foot like
in the door.
Yeah, and then was acting like they had a gun in their pocket and was like, let us in. So I was thinking to myself, obviously, by that time I'm scared, thinking, oh my gosh, she's got a gun in her pocket. Then when they came in my house, so they didn't have any guns. They went into my kitchen, got knives out the drawer, and was talking about in Brixton, and was talking about where's the money? He's like, what are you talking about? And then they let their friends through the back door, and then
hold on a minute. So there was two guys at the front door, and then they let the people.
And the wickedest thing is, to get to the back, you had to climb. The wall is not a little wall, Even as to today, I sit down and think to myself, how the hell did they scale that wall? Because the wall was a very high wall. And then it had some little green wire at the top as well. So it was like, wow. Anyhow, they came in my house. They basically turned my house upside down looking for this money.
So
invisible money. They were convinced. They were convinced that I had a drug dealing boyfriend or something, and how they saw him coming to my house and all this. So I don't know if you remember, but those times, I think it was plasma TVs, they were coming in like brand. That was the time when plasma.
Flat screen, but like the big back flat screen.
Now I had the big back television. I had no plasma screen, none of this stuff. I had my big, massive television. My house was not a house that. I'm not stereotyping, but my house wasn't like that though, innit? So I'm saying to the guys, okay, are you lot being for real? Like, do I look like a house where drug do you see any pictures of this person in my house? So it's like the guy was talking to him and saying, bro, you know what? It's true what she's saying, bro. And remember, I did see you coming in here like two doors of the same colour. So me and my next door neighbour had the same colour door. So it's like they started to confirm with each other and realised actually,
they even cover their faces?
No, the two that came through the back had balaclavas on, but the two that came through the front didn't have anything. So then I'm getting mad now because I'm almost starting to realise, hold on.
They robbed the wrong house and they're already on top of their face.
So I'm shouting now because also I put Kamaya down. I'm not gathering. They mustn't have recognised I had Kamaya. I think they thought she was a dolly. So they went to pull up the sofa, and the girl almost dropped onto the floor. Now this time, remember, so my daughter was born the 16th of February. This was about the 13th, 14th of March. So my daughter's just a month old, hold on, but she almost dropped off the sofa. So then at that time, I didn't even think about danger no more. As far as I'm concerned, I just wanted to come out my house, innit?
Yeah.
So I started raising my voice, hoping that the
neighbours can hear you.
Nosy neighbour next door,
Yeah.
the nosy neighbour.
The nosy ones, yeah. When you want them to hear you, they don't hear you, innit?
She heard nothing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I said to them, anyway, I must have said something to them like, well, they better go through the back because there's cameras at the front. But I really wanted them to go through the back because there's cameras at the back as well. Yeah. So the man, the one of the boys must have said something like, oh, so what, you gonna call the police and that, yeah? I was like, do I look like a dickhead? Like, of course I'm not. Obviously in my mind, I'm saying, of course when you've left uncalled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not gonna tell them that right there, yeah.
I just wanted them out of my house. They took the knives. They took, I think the boys had got like £300 for their birthday. They took that money. They took my phone. I asked them if they could just leave my memory card. Yeah, they can have the phone, but they just need to leave my memory card. And the reason why was because a few months before I had my daughter, I went to, I remember it was 50 Cent's concert that year. And my dad had gotten me VIP because he was going to see. Don't ask me why my dad liked 50 Cent. I didn't really like it, but I was like, look, I'm going. And we was in some VIP box. We got to meet all these Arsenal players.
Yeah.
I was a big Arsenal fan. And they were pointing to my belly and it was so nice. So I wanted those pictures.
Yeah.
They obviously took the phone, so I never had a chance to get those pictures back. But yeah, it was a very frightening experience. And it's so mad how life goes because about 3 weeks later, one of them that were at the door ended up getting shot. And he got killed. And then I think the other one, I remember seeing the other one in the paper a few years after that, and I don't know if he was in trouble for. Can't remember what it was now.
Well, it's gonna catch up with them, innit? They're gonna do they end up fucking into the wrong people, and they get dealt with. So that's karma for you.
And you know, sometimes when problems happen like that, it almost sets you back, But for me, I feel like it was almost a blessing. Like a blessing in disguise because after that I left that house. I refused to live there anymore, and I was moved, so I was able to basically go
fully out of the area.
Yeah, and I literally decided that I was gonna. In the beginning, I went to Croydon. I remember staying with a friend for a couple of days. I didn't even really know this lady. Her daughter just happened to go to my boys' school. That was another thing. Even though we lived in Brixton, my boys went to school in Croydon.
Okay. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So they traveled that far?
Yeah, because my mum used to live in Croydon, but I was very adamant that not because of stereotypes, but I just needed the children not to grow up in an area where they would be I'm trying to think of the right word. Yeah, I didn't want my boys to be drawn in, and I know because they're boys that life is hard as it is.
Yeah,
back is hard as it is, and I didn't want them. Yeah, so I thought, you know what? I can only but give them the opportunity, innit? They could still have turned out to be. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Try your best, and that's obviously.
There's no manual how to be a parent. You just try. So that was what I did, and so I basically relocated. When I was working for probation, I was first working in Westminster, and I relocated to Croydon, which meant that when in the morning I took them to school and then I went straight to work. And then my mum would pick them up, or they would go to after school club. And then I would pick them up from there and we'd go back home. And again, once getting into a routine, it wasn't a difficulty. When I had my daughter, then she went to my friend's house, and my friend looked after her for a while. And again, she lived right around the corner from the school, so that was really good as well.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Your mum helped with the school run and stuff like that, as well as.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
So I ended up moving. I ended up being in Croydon, but then moving to Sutton Council, and then I ended up in Epsom.
Is that where you are?
Yeah, that's where I am now. It was hard. It was a hard transition because when we moved down here, which was almost 12, 13 years ago now, there was no help here. So whereas before, my mum might have picked up the kids from school. Yeah. When I moved up here, that wasn't an option. Yeah. So it was on
literally
me.
On your own. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you find that? Going from help.
It was very strange in the beginning, and it was very hard But at the same time, because in my mind, I knew the reasons why I moved out here.
Yeah.
And I remember people saying, oh, but you're far, man. Like, bro, you're far. Why did you move to the ends? No, but that's far, though. I get that, but it's far. And I was just kept saying, you know what? I know why I'm doing this. I know why I'm doing this. So one of the things that the boys experienced when being up here was racism. Their first experience of real racism was before we came to Epsom. We were living in Sutton in temporary accommodation, and there was an older boy who used to live upstairs. They were a white family, but in general, I mean, they communicated with us and stuff. This particular day, the boys were out playing.
How old were they?
They were about, probably about 10.
Okay, so old enough to understand racism.
Yeah. So they were out playing, and then the boy from upstairs, his older brother, decided that he'd throw them in the bin. Like the twins.
Who in the bin?
The twins. One of them, actually. It was one of them.
He threw the
and he was like, yeah, because you're black and you're rubbish anyway. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So one of them, I heard one of them with his loud voice. And so I looked out the window, and then I saw him running, but I didn't see his brother. So I'm there running outside now to find out what's going on. He's like, Mom, so-and-so put money in the bin. I was like, what are you talking about? So I went out there. By that time, the boy had run off.
How old was the white boy?
He was probably about 14 or 15.
Oh my God.
So I remember going to have a conversation with Mum. She kind of acted like it was not a big deal. So anyway, I called the police because as far as I was concerned, this was like, if they didn't do something, I was going to do something. And this was for me, as far as I was concerned, something that was racial, because what he said.
Of course, it's racial. That's like, is it abuse, or when you get physical with somebody? What's that called again?
Assault.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's to a minor.
Yeah, exactly. So, what did they do? What did the police do? I remember the inspector, they took forever, because like it's not an immediate concern. So they took a good week or so to come to my house. That involved me having to keep going past the police station saying, so what, are you not sending anyone? And then what I did though was I made my son write his story.
Yeah. From
the beginning, when he was quite emotional still.
Time just as it happened.
Yeah. And so when they came, we said what we said. They had gone upstairs, and then they had told the little boy that he's not to talk to the kids. Which I just felt like, well, that's not really helping, is it? Because you're not helping him to understand what he done wrong, why it's wrong, and all the rest of it. I think subsequently after, they had offered, they offered some work, some reparation stuff, but the mum refused it. So that was it.
So nothing, no consequences, no punishment, no nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, okay. So from that day, I just encourage the kids that once somebody puts their hand on you, it warrants you. If you really wanted to beat rubbish out of them, you could do that, because actually, they put their hand on you first.
Yeah.
And I had to teach them that, because I just recognize, in a predominantly white area, I have to allow my boys to understand who they are, and that, no, don't allow people to just take advantage like that. However, I was also aware that that he was subsequently older than them.
Yeah.
And it happened to be, I think it was maybe a year later or something, my little brother, he came down. He was around the same age as the boy. I think a little bit older. And he went mad. I didn't even know this. They were outside and they were like, oh yeah, there's that boy. And then he was like, what boy? And then they told him, and then he basically beat him up. And obviously there was no comeback for that, because they were the same age.
Yeah.
So they were scrapping, as far as I don't know if the lady called the police or not, but as far as I was concerned, they were scrapping. And then it was shortly after that they moved. I bidded on this house, and then this is where I've been ever since.
Wow. So when your brother obviously got hold of that boy that threw your son in the bin, he didn't get in trouble, did he? didn't get in trouble.
No.
Yeah, because they was the same age. They were still both young.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's good because
if I remember right, I think his mum might have tried to say something and I just was just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
There was no witnesses in it, so no face, no case.
No, you know what I mean?
It's true. You try them once.
And I do think that it made my boys feel much more empowered.
Yeah.
And not it's not like I taught them to, just when you see someone, if you don't like them, just punch them in the face or, just beat them up. It wasn't like that, but it was just about being able to defend themselves. And I think
and
I think the fact that their uncle was able to stick up for them, it almost made them be able to also, we need to have our backs like that as well. And I put them into karate. I remember putting them into, I think, karate or tai chi or something like that for a couple of months. In the beginning, they liked it, but then I think it was something that started to become a bore for them. But they learnt the basics.
Yeah. And the important lesson is that they now know racism now. That not that it's important to them, but they've witnessed it, they've experienced it. So going forward, how did you have to? Because you moved into an area that was predominantly white. Yep.
So when we moved from Sutton to Epsom, so Sutton already had a few black people, but it was definitely spot the black. And then when we moved up to Epsom, I remember one of our first visits to Asda, and everyone was looking at us, and I'm saying, why is everyone looking at us though? Realising that actually it was almost like we were celebrities, isn't it? Because literally there were no black people. There was a family that lived maybe 3 doors down, but they were a multicultural family, so they were black and white. So I felt like they wouldn't necessarily know how I feel because they weren't necessarily socially isolated like that. So
how was that experience then? Because if everyone's looking at you like you're aliens, and then you got school, you have to be put into a school. That must be another experience in itself, because you went from a school that you could see more black people and into a school. I mean, how many black people were in the kids' school?
Well, when we was in Sutton, there wasn't that many, but there was a few.
Yeah.
Enough to make them not feel so isolated when they moved up here and then they started their first year in secondary school. There was a few again, but it was just mainly white people. So I think one of the things that was a real big benefit, but was a bit of a thorn in my side, was, so my brother and sister, when I first moved up here, it was 2010. My brother had been giving my mum some problems, hence why even that weekend he came and he had that altercation with the boy who put my son in the bin. They'd been coming up quite a lot. My mum moved from Croydon to Wolverhampton between those years of the boys being like 5 and 10. And so my brother and sister used to come down like twice a month, from the Friday to the Sunday. And so I had them for a good couple of weekends, and then they basically weren't getting on with my mum. My brother then ended up having an altercation with somebody in Wolverhampton, and then my mum made a decision that she was going to send him back home. So our back home is Jamaica. So she sent him there. I never knew my brother was in Jamaica. So, cut a long story short, I can't remember how, but I ended up being able to speak to my brother. Oh yeah, that's it, through my mum's boyfriend who's in Jamaica. And then my brother wasn't in a very good place, and my brother has something called diabetes insipidus. So it's not where you have to have insulin, but it's where you have to basically have tablets. And so he'd run out of tablets and all these type of things. So anyway, I had sent for him to come back from Jamaica. Pay his fare and all the rest of it. At this time, as far as my mum's boyfriend was concerned, because she also went out subsequently to Jamaica and stayed there for quite a while. But basically my mum was not around. By that time though, my sister had been with me. So my sister one day just randomly called my phone when I was at work and was like, I don't want to live with mum no more, and I'm going to run away to my friend's house, and this, the other, and if I haven't picked her up by the end of the week, basically, she's going to go and stay at her friend's house. I don't know her friend. I don't know nobody.
Yeah.
So my main thing was, because I know how my relationship was with my mum, I said, you know what, actually, let me go and collect my sister. At that time, my sister was, I believe my sister was 13 or 14.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so she was in year 9 at the time. So I went and collected her. I had to do all these protocols, like I had to take her to the police station. By that time, because I was working as probation, I kind of knew certain things that
you knew the procedure.
In relation to, you don't want people to be seeing you as kidnapping, even though it was my little sister, but at the same time, I just need to follow precautions. So
you weren't the guardian or nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So when we got down to London, I took her to the local police station to let them know that I had her. And then she kind of gave a statement to say that, she doesn't want to stay with mom anymore, the reasons why and all that stuff. So she basically then ended up living with me. And then it was after that, my mum went to Jamaica, and then I got in touch with my brother, and then he happened to let me know that his medication had run out. My mum had an argument with her boyfriend. She'd left the house and she'd not been back. And this was like 2 weeks later. So I was like, what? Well, my brother's not going to stay there with this man. I don't even really know the man. So my grandma also lived in Jamaica at the time. She was willing to look after my brother for a little while we got everything sorted. So I think he was at my grand's for about a week, and then after that he came over. So basically, cutting a long story short, I ended up having 5 children in my new house that I just came to, that didn't have much furniture, that I was just still trying to make
settling in.
Settling in. And then I had to sort out schools for both of them. But the reason why I went into that backstory was basically, by the time the boys got to secondary school, they went to the same secondary school as my brother and sister. So my brother kind of had a little reputation for himself by that time, coming from back home, knew how to stick up for himself. And to hold. So
your son was sorted, basically. Your kids were sorted by then.
So they knew that Lamar's nephews were coming to the school, and we kind of needed to be a little bit vigilant with the way that we're dealing with them. So that was nice. I think the fact that the teachers knew, I think that maybe wasn't so nice, because I felt like they had
treated differently.
I feel like they kind of stereotyped that, well, if this is how Lamar is, well, this is how the twins are going to be. So they already kind of started with already being stereotyped for certain things, because my brother, he wasn't a bad boy, but he definitely stuck up for himself. Right is right and wrong is wrong.
Sticking up for yourself in their case is almost like a bad thing. You can't stick up for yourself for some reason. So when they first started the school, they were already quite confident. And I believe that it was my brother's input that helped them to be that confident. Of course. And then they literally had their first racial incident at school, where they was in school, everyone was chatting and that, and then this white boy just said, because I don't even like you niggas, because that, what? No, I don't understand. So he was like, now repeat what you said, and he was like, no, and then he said, because I didn't think you were brave enough to repeat what you said. So then after they finished school, when they were walking home, this particular boy decided he was going to say the same thing again. This time my son's out of school. So then he went up to him and asked him, why would he say something like that, knowing that that's a racist word? And he was like, but they say it in music anyway, blah, 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 and this, that, and other. And then he must have pushed him away from him. So then my son kind of just beat him up and pushed him in the road and all this stuff. And then I had the whole complaint system the next day. One of these boys was in uniform, and we saw, a passerby saw him being pushed down by your son, and blah blah. Not even wanting to hear the backstory. As they do.
They saw him put his hand on him. So I went in the school,
but they didn't see what the other one did.
So obviously the boy gave his side of the story, and then all the witnesses and was asked to give their side of the story. So when I went into the meeting, I was very adamant that could I know the witnesses? They said no. So I said, okay, if I can't know the witnesses, can I know if these particular boys? Now these were boys who I'd had a conversation with all of them weren't necessarily the boys' friends, you know. They were just people that were there. So I was just asking them, because for me, I'm not saying I don't believe my children, but a lot of the time, because I've gone into youth work now for over 10 years, and so I like to hear stories from various young people, just to be able to back up if a young person is telling the truth story. So I asked a few of the young people, and they kind of had they said, no, he didn't come on, he didn't start it first. It was this particular boy, George, who started it first. So when I went into my meeting, I was very confident with the fact that, yes, my son did. You know, if we were in a court of law and they said, so did your son push? Yeah, he really did push him. He did. He did put his hand on him. Yeah, he did. And then it was like, okay, well, you know, we think putting the hands on children is unacceptable, blah, blah. So then I posed the question of, okay, so did you find out what the nature of the reason how they got into that altercation? Yeah. So then everyone was kind of looking at each other like, well, you know, that's beside the point, because like, and I said, no, I think it's very, very much inside the point. And then I let them know that I think that we should call the police. So what happened is I said, and I think the reason why is because my boys experienced racial abuse from him. So they were like, pardon? And that's what made me realise that they didn't even have a conversation with my son though. Yeah. Or maybe they did, but they just didn't believe what he was saying. So then I said, you know, well, this is a racial racial abuse, and I've been told before that when these problems happen, I should call the police. So I'm actually going to do that. And then I started taking my phone and like, oh, Miss John, can we just talk about this?
Talk about this. Hold on, you know,
can we just talk about this?
Oh, so you don't want to get the police
contained. You know, I think it can be contained within the school. You know, I think we need to just calm down for a second.
Another thing that to tell me. You're going to talk about it before, so let's just get the police involved.
And one of the things that really used to get me is when you go into a meeting like that and you are a black person and you're asserting your authority.
You have to come
as far as they're concerned. Oh, Miss John, calm down, Miss John. You know, you're shouting. I'm being very passionate about what I'm saying, because actually I am quite disturbed by the fact that you couldn't even hear the backstory and you assume that my son
take time out to find out.
Exactly.
Interview people that you claim, interview, like you just put one part of the story around with it.
Exactly. So they then got my son. They then had a conversation with him separate from me to ask him his account of the story, which my son was a little bit cocky. He was like, oh, so you want to hear my side now? Okay, what? Because my mom's here. So, you know, then he made his point, and then he said, okay, well, we've now got the two sides of the story. You know, they were both in the wrong, and pardon? Yeah, they were both in the wrong, so they both need to get sanctions. I said, listen, you see, if you sanction my son, I'm taking him out of this school, innit? That's what I'm telling you. I will be taking my son, and then I will be going to the education board and telling them that, you know what, when it comes to racial profiling, you guys don't try to resolve the issue. And that's when they were like, this woman is not easy, innit?
Yeah, she's not playing.
After that, a lot of times when I had complaints and stuff, I used to call up to have a conversation, and all I used to get is, oh, I'm really sorry, everyone's a bit busy at the moment, but what I'll do is I'll get them to call you back. Yeah, and then I had to end up sending emails of when I had something to say, because actually, do you know what? You guys are not responding to me, and even so, at least I've got a paper trail to show.
Yeah, that's what I start with as well, emails, because that way you got your paper, like I said, paper trail, you got proof of contact and everything.
And
that
when you sent all the messages.
Yeah.
And so they didn't really like me very much. If they saw me approaching the school, you saw the receptionist.
They don't like it when a parent gets involved. They don't like it when you stand up for your kids and get involved, even though they complain. You don't get involved and be a part of the whole progress of your child being in the school. At the same time, I don't like it when you do get involved. It's almost like this parent is a nuisance.
Too involved. But yet, if you weren't to get involved, you would be a neglectful parent.
Yeah, a neglectful parent. You don't want to know what's going on and stuff. It's like you can't win for winning, and even more so when you're a single parent as well. They take the mick as well.
Yep, definitely.
They look down on you. They look at you sideways and upside down and all sorts. Like it's just.
Yeah, it is a lot.
We can have
a whole other episode.
Yeah, just for that alone, education system.
And that's why I was so adamant as well, because they were boys. I needed my boys to understand that they were very powerful in society, I felt that there was a lot of young boys who didn't really have confidence in certain things, and I was just very adamant that my boys are going to have confidence in who they are, and they're also going to know who they are. So I went through we went through a lot of Black history teachings as well. And I weren't like, I remember my mum's first introduction to me of Black history was sat me down to watch Roots, and it was like, okay, that was a lot. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of decided to be the more subtle mum, you know, and approach little things. So I spoke to them about the Stephen Lawrence the case and stuff like that. We did touch a bit on Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but my thing was as well not to allow them to just know about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, because there were so many other Black figures and then who done stuff. And one of my things was to show them about the males who done great because they were males. And so what about another thing? I mean, I'm the same as well, because I don't know either, but people tend to forget, like UK, you know, we also have our version of, you know, what the Americans went through, the Black history, the racism and stuff like that. They've got people like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and all these Black figures that were you know, that influenced their generation and tried to, you know, stand their ground in terms of racism and stuff like that. Do we have that here? Do we have our own? Because we also need to have our own and teach our children about our experiences, because our experience here as Black people is not the same as American experience as Black people. You know what I'm saying? Is that something that you I feel like in relation to Black role models here, it's much harder to pick from them. So you've got a few MPs, but then I don't want to be rude when I say this, but there's certain MPs that they don't really speak out very often. So,
they don't.
So for you to say, Raj, you know what, this is so and so because you've seen them on television a few times. Well, actually, no, you don't really see them on TV. So it's almost like, okay, you're going to show them someone, but where's that person within society? So I did show them about the Diane Abbotts and the David Lammies, and I remember Bernie Grant at the time, and just showed them that, you know what, there is colour in everywhere, basically, However, I want you guys to recognise how very few there are. But not that you can't make it. However, the fact that you're also going to go through a lot of persecution and certain things like that just because of the colour of your skin, though. And even these people in these establishments, MPs, comedians, where they also would still get their own form of racism. It might be a bit more subtle than what someone would say to us, but they'll still get it. So I think them experiencing it allowed them to almost have more power in what I was saying. So it was like, I never thought we would experience that and that. And I actually went on to do a presentation in the school on the word bigger. And it was to a whole assembly. And they were so upset. But what I did is, because I was working in youth work and I worked in this area, I was able to go through it via my workplace. So they didn't even realise it was me until I was there. And then it was like, oh, what's his mum doing there again? And it's like, oh, hello there. Yes, I'm from, and then you heard Saul, the receptionist, looking around like, what is her that's coming to facilitate?
So they knew that you weren't no regular mum.
What happened? Do you know what I mean? And then I was with my white colleague, you know, and then obviously I ended up facilitating most of it. And it was like, wow. And do you know what that did for me? It gave me the power to understand and know that, you know what, regardless of my colour, I can go into a room and I can stand out. It's not necessarily, it's about the power that I choose to possess in that room. Do you understand? So that definitely gave me drive. And then that's even what made me realise even more, do you know what, this youth work stuff, I need to stay in this youth work stuff. And I actually went to uni and done a degree shortly after that.
Was it? In what?
In applied social science, community development and youth work.
That's really good. Well done.
So
you can apply that to your career and what you're doing.
Now. So with the boys, they, as time went on, so this is like fast forwarding now, they're getting older now, they're starting to turn into young men. They're teenage time.
Yeah.
Teenage time was quite funny. Because even though they had the experience from my brother, who then moved out subsequently a few years later.
Yeah.
They were now coming into their own, learning that actually they've got hormones.
Yeah.
I remember coming home one day with a fake version of a penis and putting a condom on it, and they were looking at me like, "Are you all right, Mum? What are you doing?" So I was like, "Right, today's lesson's going to be," and they were like, "No, Mum, this is really embarrassing, isn't it? No, Mum, but this is really embarrassing." I was like, "Can you sit down?" And
that's like education time, basically.
Yeah, because I remember my daughter was at our school camp till, so I only had a certain window in which to do this. So I sat down.
How old were the boys at this time? At this point?
Probably about 13. Yeah, 13. Yeah. Because I was like, when am I going to do this? Because they already know, and I know they know about sex. So when am I going to do this? And I was like, oh my gosh, but they're boys.
Yeah.
And then I was like, are they even going to listen to me? Because, and then I'd been kind of expecting their dad to do these things, but then at the same time, had to understand that he wasn't growing with his dad. So when it came to certain things, I don't even know if he knew how to navigate stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to put that necessarily put that responsibility on him. And I'm one of those mums that I will do what it takes to get along with the father so that my child can see their dad. Regardless of the way I feel about him, I need to ensure that my children have a relationship. When they get older now, if that relationship they feel wasn't enough or didn't do enough for them, then they can have that conversation at that time. But I've always allowed access for their dads to see them and tried my hardest to ensure that I supported that. And I've never, regardless of what my sons or my daughter have ever thought about their dads, I've never allowed them to allow it to make them disrespect them.
Of course, yeah.
You know, so like, you know, there's certain times I might have heard my son say things, because dad, like, don't even go there. Because regardless of what you think of him, he's still your dad, though.
Your dad, yeah.
So, and I don't expect you to go and disrespect him.
Not to encourage. Yeah. It's just, and then they're still children. Yes, they might feel a bit angry at times, but you have to kind of like, you know, like you said, they're still your parents. Even me, myself, I'm the same. They might have their little moments where they're angry about what their dad has said or done, and it's almost like, you know what, I'm not going to allow you to say any more or even go any further.
Go into it,
You know what I'm saying? Because he's your dad. Like, they trying their best as well, as the same as I'm trying my best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, and you don't want to enhance and grow the anger inside of them, because when you don't like, you know, that some parents, they will encourage it because they're so angry with the father. When this child starts feeling the same hurt or anger, they kind of bond and encourage it, and it hurts the child at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't hurt you, it hurts the child and the relationship with their dad, you know. So you kind of like have to be like the middle person, the peacemaker between.
Yeah, definitely. So that was me teaching them how to put on a condom. They thought it was really weird. They were like, "But Mum, we don't even do things like that, and, you know, because we're not even like that." And I said, "That's fine, but I just wanted to show you." So I felt like that was the breaking of the ice for our relationship, because after that, the boys would come to me and tell me stuff. Like, they'd be like, "Mum, oh my God, this boy today, and he was doing this to this girl. Mum, why would you do that? No, that's weird. Mum, but that's... but I mean, how could the girl let him do that?" And, you know, so we used to have really intense conversations about things that they used to see, and then I had been having conversations with them about not that I don't want them to have a relationship, but if they do have a relationship, what does that entail? And I was one of those mums, you can't ask me to be buying a Valentine's card for your girlfriend. No, sorry, you need to wait until you have your own job, when you're over 16 and you've got a national insurance number, and then you can buy her a card. So that was one of the, I think it was one of the things that allowed them to understand that, okay, cool, well, unless the girl's going to like me for me, she ain't getting nothing from me, because my mum ain't giving me no money. And those days, I didn't have it to give them pocket money and stuff, because obviously I had 5 children. So I didn't have pocket money to give them. They used to do little things, like if they used to do certain chores, I'd give them, you know, a little 50p or £1, but they were so busy wanting to spend that on the sweets that they wanted at the moment. They weren't thinking about the girl whose Valentine's card they're going to buy next year. So it was quite good, because I feel that it allowed them to understand they can have girls as friends, but they just don't need to really involve themselves in anything until they're older. And I remember Kamani, in year 6, I remember him telling me something like, yeah, mum, because I'm talking to so-and-so, this girl. And I said to him, oh, that's nice. And then I think a couple weeks later, the little girl's friend said, oh, yeah, because he was talking to me. So then the girl was like, what? I heard you was talking to blah, blah, blah. So you're dumped anyway. And it hurt my son so much, yeah. But after that, I don't remember Kamali having a relationship until after he left school. Well, not even having a relationship, just talking to girls. Until after he left school. It was just almost like, do you know what? I just have fun. I can say hello to a girl and me and her can talk and whatnot.
That was his first heartbreak. Basically.
Yeah, and that was enough for him to say, nah, forget that.
I'm not ready for this.
Yeah, it's as they got older after school that they came and told me some of the little secrets of, Mum, do you know what? I was really talking to that girl. We didn't do nothing, but I was just talking to her, innit? And we was holding hands, walking to school and stuff like that. He's like, so remember when I used to leave like a little bit earlier? Yeah, that's why, because I used to have to meet her down there. So they're teenagers. So after that situation of me showing them how to use a condom, it definitely opened up the communication, and they did feel comfortable to tell me stuff without feeling that I might judge them, or I might start shouting, or I might start cussing them and stuff like that.
That's what we all want as well, and that's what we all want.
Yeah, it did get a lot as they left school. I'm not gonna lie, they literally told me everything, and I was just, some days I'd be like,
was it overwhelming?
Too much information. Like seriously, guys, that's too much information, and they found it quite funny. They were like, yeah, but Mum, you told us to tell you, innit?
Yeah,
so like,
exactly. They can't tell you. Who can they tell? You know.
It
must have been overwhelming.
Like, it was sometimes. I remember one time just walking out of their room like, what? Are you for real? And I just walked out. I was just like, and then I walked back in and was like, okay, so yeah. How will you ensure next time that, you know, maybe it's a bit safer and stuff? And it was just like, because like, okay, cool.
So then how did that translate? Because they were boys. Now, like, how did you do that? How was your, what's the word I'm looking for? What method did you use for your daughter? Did you use the same kind of method? Because obviously boys are a little different. How did you find doing that with the daughter?
So one of the things that I ensured with my daughter was that I had to tell her earlier, because she learned things earlier. So what I used to, because by then I'd done my degree, and so in relation to young people, I was very experienced with young people. So these are, you know, I'd had conversations already with young people outside. So obviously that's people that I don't necessarily know. I'm not their parent. So that was good. But then obviously having to come and then do it for your children. So what I used to do is, one of the things I was very adamant on with the boys is that she's a princess in it. So whichever way you talk to her, and that you're going to help to shape the first boyfriend that she chooses to have when she's in school. So you guys have to think about the way you're talking to her, you know. And so I used to give examples. Sometimes when they used to do it, I used to have to say something and allow them to think about it. So one thing with my twins, I don't know if this happens with your twins, is that they switch characters every couple of, well, when they were younger, it used to be less. So it would happen maybe every 6 months. Sometimes it would happen maybe every 8 months. Now it happens like every other day.
You say characters, like swap characters, or what?
So one of them would be very vocal. Yeah, sometimes. Whereas the other one would be more quiet and say, no, because Mum's saying this year, no, you need to listen to her, blah, blah. Then twos now, they will switch. And then it'll be the other one who will be like, no, Mum, you're trying to argue with me. And then it'll be the other one who, and in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, no, maybe you're just exaggerating. Maybe it's not, maybe they're not switching, innit? Maybe but as time went on, I'm saying, wow. So I had to also alert the boys to it. So I used to explain to them, I'm trying to get to really understand one of you, but what keeps happening is every couple of weeks you keep switching. So then what happened is they were a bit like what you said, but what? Switching, what do you mean? So then I had to tell them, and then what they did now is they started to almost look at each other. Yeah. And then what it is that when the one who's more vocal tends to not get on with my daughter. So then sometimes it will be one, and then sometimes it will be the other. And then she starts saying, you guys have switched characters again. I'm just saying that because obviously me and Kamani are talking more now. Me and Kane weren't talking last week. So she was also able to join in the whole mix. And I think it helped her not to be so frustrated. Because in the beginning, she was a little bit confusing, like, but mum, because Kamani was nice to me last week and then now he's not nice to me. But then now she understands, Rod, you know what? Okay, they switched again. Wow, this twin thing's a bit mad, isn't it?
What was the reason why they switched?
Do you know what? I don't know. It must be a twin thing. And I've spoken to older twins who told me that they have had exactly the same as they were growing up. Yeah, I don't know if it's because they're identical or what, but it still happens to today. And so it's something that I've just got used to because it's just how it is. But I'm just glad that they notice it as well, because what happens is one of them's able to be the more mature one. So what I've had to explain to them is one of you has to be the more mature one. So you know, sometimes the argument might not even be your fault, but try and finish it or squash it as quickly as you can. And before, when they were younger, they used to have arguments and then they wouldn't talk for like days. Now, oh my gosh, it's not even an hour. Like, you'll be like, you know, you're a dickhead, and they'll be like, oh, you're a dickhead. Oh,
how did they not talk for days though? How was that?
So when I say they don't talk for days, it's almost like one of them they'll play with each other, you know, but they just no dialogue.
Oh, okay.
So when we're sitting at the dinner table, everything's just quiet, then it's not even having a chat, and then you're like, okay, something's wrong. Yeah, but it wouldn't run for more than 3 days, because one of them would have something that he was such a burning desire for him to tell his brother that he didn't want to tell me. That
he just has to say so. Yeah.
Whereas now it's like you hear them having a discussion. No, but you're not listening. No, I am listening. Do you know what? I'm not saying nothing. Oh, you're a dickhead. And then do you know what? You're a dickhead as well. And then about half an hour later, he's like, yes, do you want to go shop? He's like, yeah, right, let's go shop. So they now have got to a stage where they're not in any type of animosity for literally more than an hour. If they are away from each other, they have done this since they were young. They will literally ring each other, you know. Like, it's like, well, I'm in the house though, innit? Do you need to call your brother every 5 minutes? Is that necessary? And they never run out of things to talk about either. Never run out of things to talk about. You're like, but you just saw him a minute ago.
Yeah.
And they work in
They're best friends.
They work in 2 separate places, but they're always on the phone. If I call one of their phones and he's going to voicemail, I know he's talking to his brother.
Really?
Yeah, especially if it goes on for a certain amount of time, because he's the only one that he will talk to for so long.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, it is sometimes. It can be quite annoying though, especially when they want to gang up on me, you know. They want to gang up on me and be like, no, but mum, you need to see where Kane's coming from, because he has got a point. No, but I'm not talking to you though.
They have each other's back as well.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, that's like mine. I tell one off, the other one's like, oh, mommy, why did you do that? You made me cry now. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like I'm being like, you know, like tag team defense. Like, come on, like, what do you mean? Like, your sister was rude. Yeah, but she's crying and look what you did to her. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying?
And do you ever find the girls having conversations like, well, you was rude to mummy, you just have to say sorry because
all the time, man. Like, hey, don't talk to mummy like that. Or if one says makes a remark, she goes, yeah, but mummy didn't do that on purpose. Or, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes they have the moments where one of them's defending me, but then obviously when like I'm telling them off or one's in trouble, then obviously they're defending each other and doing a little tag team thing or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So I like that. So I don't even like get upset when they do it, because I like the fact that they do it themselves and have each other's back. Because I always say to them, you need to have each other's back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, especially when you're out there public, you need to have each other's back. Yeah. You know, don't let anyone come in between you guys or say anything to you in your presence. Like, say, you know, that's what I want anyway. You know, so. Yeah, that's cute. What about, like, okay, they've got a strong bond. So how does your daughter feel about that when it comes to them having this strong bond, best friends, they're always together 24/7?
I think maybe if she was the same sex, I think it would be more of an issue. And I think if she was, just like you said earlier, if she was older, it may have caused something. Obviously I've tried my best to allow them to grow up all together, but obviously she has a 6 year gap, quite a big gap. But I think because she's a little girl, that's their little sister. So they kind of just just almost adapted. I mean, there is times where obviously they get in each other's and they'll be like, Mum, I don't know, you let her get away with so much. That's what they say quite a lot. Yeah. Mum, you let her get away with so much more, than we got away with. Like, they say that quite a lot. Yeah. And I allow her to understand, you see, your brothers are talking sense when they're saying what they're saying.
Yeah.
To understand. So things like the boys had chores from earlier than Kamaya had chores.
Yeah.
And even now, where I've encouraged her to get involved in doing chores and stuff like that, I think I have more time and patience when it comes to her, but that's because she's a girl. And so there's a lot of traits that she has that are like mine, that I need to nurture.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do have a good bond. I think when it comes to them telling her off, sometimes when I try to talk to them in the situation, I think they think that, yeah, but you're not telling her off, then next you're just talking. So I mean, but that's unfair. So I will, she does end up getting sanctions for certain things, and I will give them rights. So for instance, if I'm not here and they've called me, because they will always call me, Mum, oh my gosh, I was just saying to Kamaya this, and she was like, what? Oh, who's she talking to, Mum? Because I don't know who she thinks she is. And then I'll say, okay, so what consequence is she do you think she'll have? Mum, it's her phone. I'm telling you, Mum. Because when she doesn't have that phone yet, she's different, Mum. She's not the same. So then I say, okay, so how long do you think her phone should be taken away for? Sometimes they're not going to be very unrealistic. They'll be like 3 months. And I'll be like, okay. But obviously she got to go to school. So she's okay, Mum, well, you make it up then, because you're not listening to what I'm saying. No, I am.
They just want you to like show some kind of discipline to her, right?
Yeah. So then I'll say, okay, well, you guys take her phone then, and she can have it when she goes to school, and then when she comes, you lot come in, then you take it from her and blah. So they've learned to actually, okay, well, maybe Mum's not saying what we wanted to say, but she's coming to a compromise, so let's work with the compromise. And so it's got easier now, but it's funny as well, because where they switch characters, what will happen usually more time than not is that, because Kamaya used to say things like, Kamani's my favourite, anyway, because Kane's always shouting at me. Whereas now she doesn't say that, because they have both almost managed to just manage her. So she'll do a lot of things. Like sometimes there'll be, well, I've got a dog, so sometimes they'll go out to walk the dog and she'll go as well. Kamani always encourages her, oh, I'm going on a jog, I think you should come, and stuff. And then you hear them playing about in the house. Kamaya can be quite a stickler for when it comes to playing. So sometimes if she's in her serious mode and then Kamani wants to ramp with her, she doesn't want to ramp, so then she starts getting a bit rude. But
there's always a respect level there, right?
Yeah. So and there's certain levels. Sometimes Kamaya has tried to push the boat out when I'm saying to her, but who are you talking to? Don't talk to my son like that. Are you alright? No, you need to go and apologise to them, because I don't know who you're talking to. And then she's been like, oh. And then there's other times where I've had to say to the boys, no, but you need to apologise to her, because the way you spoke to her wasn't okay. And they'll have to also do the same. So she boasts anytime she goes, because I've got 2 big brothers, because like, and then so she loves that. And when it comes to her birthday, they buy her stuff and she's so gassed, and she gets there. And then she likes, like, we went to Creams on to meet up with my uncle the other day, and then she was like, all right, come on, can I take a picture? Because sometimes she'll try and sneak pictures and take pictures of them, because they don't really take pictures like that. So the last time I was like, no, but if you want to take a picture, at least ask me tomorrow. So she goes, oh, can I take a picture of you, please? And for the first time they were like, okay then, and they took a picture of her. And she was showing me on my face, she's like, oh my God, Mum, I can't believe, because I've got a picture of my brothers. And so she'll go to school, and she'll be like, this is what they look like now. Showing them off. So the bond. And I always tell them, I say to them, I'm not going to be here forever. So the truth of the matter is, you guys' relationship needs to be strong, just like me and my brother and sister. I expect it to be on top. Like no one can't break you lot's bond, because that's just how it is. And they're definitely getting there. The boys, I think, where they were premature, they, in the beginning, when it came to growing and stuff, I found that they were a little bit more. They're a little bit, I suppose, and I suppose it's not a bad thing. I tried to keep the boys in their childhood for as long as I could. I didn't want them to grow too quickly and then think they're big men and all these type of things. So even now, Ken and Kamani are 19. For me, they're more like 18. And I quite like that, because then they have a lot of respect when it comes to certain things. Like I don't really carry bags. Ken and Kamani, even if they don't come shopping, which they will come shopping with me a lot of the time, they will, if they see me coming home and they're home, they will come out to the car. No, Mum, don't carry that. No, because we're going to carry it. And they will take the bags. You know, they don't really like unpacking very much, but they will take the bags. And they cook. You know, they have to clean as well, do their little bit.
That's good.
And also give a little bit of money towards the upkeep of the house. I always let them understand, all of them, that teamwork makes the dream work in this house.
Exactly.
I can't do it all by myself.
You all live in that house at the end of the day, so it's best that everyone helps each other. You know, you all live there.
Exactly.
That's really good. You know, it's training as well, so that when they go off and move on their own, you've already installed that in them. Because you get some boys, men, I should say, that haven't been taught life skills like that, and they don't know how to for themselves. They don't know how to keep for themselves. They don't have to do much. They always go back to mum's house to do those things that they would, you know, like being treated like babies. But you can still that in them early.
And Mother's Day this year, Mother's Day and my birthday kind of fall usually near to the same time. And bless my son, you know, one of them had more hours in the job than the other one, so he bought me a tablet. Bless him. And he was so excited because he kept saying, "Mum, something's coming in the post here, but when it comes, don't open it," you know. And I was just like, okay, because that time he was using my I think he was using one of my Amazon account or something, and he's like, "Mum, don't look at your Amazon." And then he was so excited in the morning to come and give me this thing, and then he was like, "Mom, can you open it now?" And I was just like, "Okay." So I opened it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, satisfaction!" That because basically I had the tablet and I lost it.
Yeah.
So, but you know, being able to buy something like that of monetary value, like you could see where it had taken his mind, because he was able to actually afford that for his mum.
Happy to just, you know, take care of you, innit? They know that you take care of them, and now they want to take care of you. That's
so that was nice. That was lovely.
You know, yeah, that's beautiful, man. You've done really, really well. I've seen. I'm not being there every step of the way, but I've seen outside looking in your journey. Do you know what I'm saying? And you've done really well. You've done really, really well.
Definitely, by the grace of God, boy, I'll tell you. Because without God,
exactly. Without God, boy, things.
I don't know where I would be.
I've seen worse. So you've done perfectly well compared to the worst I've seen. You know, so before we round up, I just wanted to touch on the George Floyd situation, because I remember we had this conversation around that time last year, and we were saying that you know, like how do you discuss the whole situation with the boys, because it was at the peak of George Floyd being murdered on the screen, and the whole racism, you know, was just worldwide. And you explained, you told me how you spoke to your boys about it, and even your daughter. I just wanted you to kind of like touch on that again, on how was that experience on, you know, them witnessing the actual murder of a black man by the hands of a policeman, and what was going on around them. How did you explain it to them? What was their reaction? And what was, you know, what happened going forward after that? How did life change for you guys or for them?
So, you know, the George Floyd murder was quite gripping. I think I didn't watch as much stuff as my sons did. They literally came home every day telling me something different and adding more, and they watched the whole video. I'm very funny when it comes to those type of gruesome videos. So I didn't watch it for a good, I don't know, maybe 3 months or something. I didn't want to see it, but I was very aware of, wow, okay, I'm gonna have to do something to help these boys to just understand just a bit more. So even though I'd done the work I'd done with them when they were younger, and then obviously we've done a lot of work on Black history, but I was like, do you know what? I can't allow these boys to be in this society and just, because at any moment, you know, being a black person, you could almost believe that every white person or every person that's not your colour is the same. So, and I didn't want them to start being inferior of people, even though this was in America. So,
and it trickled down to the UK, because you see the riots going on in Central London, and all these white people getting triggered, and black people are protesting and things like that. It's almost like it exposed England for what it has always been, because England is not as blatant as American racism. You know what I'm saying? They've always like kind of kept it underneath, you know, like hidden, like swept under the rug, but like still racist, but like not like blatant. You know what I'm saying? They just kind of like pushed it into the surface. So just before George Floyd, well, not just before, but before George Floyd, we'd experienced, because we
when I was younger, I used to live in Edmonton. And so I used to be in Tottenham quite a lot. So there was a specific guy, Mark Duggan. I don't know if you remember, he got killed. And that, me and the boys demolished that whole case. We'd gone through, because one of the things I wanted to teach them is, regardless of what the press may say and what social media might put out there about somebody, nobody deserves to be killed. And so what I tried to get the boys to do is distinguish fact from theory. So let's just say he had never committed a crime. So what we did is we got a few stories where we had a few stories of people that have been killed at the hands of the police before, and just black boys that have been killed in general. And so I wanted them to do an exercise where they I wanted to know what in each of these circumstances they believe why the person got killed. And in each of the stories, it was like, Mom, I couldn't find a justifiable reason though, because actually, there was only, I think there was one where they said, they said that he had a weapon, what have you. Now, obviously in Mark Duggan's case, as far as they concerned, he had a weapon, but when they killed him, the weapon was way far away down the road. So it wouldn't have been possible for that to have necessarily been his weapon. Anyhow, with that, we had there was a few things that had happened. I went with the boys, they came to the vigil and stuff like that. So when the Mark Duggan case came, I think for them, it was a lot to see in relation to the video. This was blatant. But I don't think it was too much of a shock for the boys. However, it was a case of me having to talk to them about, okay, so if you got stopped by police, and almost doing a role play with them, you know, if you got stopped by the police today, what would your attitude be? How would you be speaking to them? You know, doing a role play, because I want to see, okay, so if they did speak to you, and in the beginning it was a bit of attitude, you know, they were talking with a bit of attitude, and I had to explain to them, you see, sometimes unfortunately, because of the way in which we might speak, and because of our attitude, might get us into problems. And I suppose it was about giving them, creating a scenario and then giving them all the possible outcomes of that, of how it could go. And then, you know, the boys they know about the faith. So I always instilled in them about ensuring that they just pray over themselves before they leave and stuff like that. But, they were very much wanting to go to protests, very much just feeling really hurt for his family and stuff. So around this particular area, again, it's a predominantly white area, but I was so adamant that I wanted to go to one of the ones that were in our area, rather than having to go all the way down to Brixton or wherever, or go into one of the ones in London, because those ones were really quite a lot, and it was COVID and stuff. So I said, you know what, I prefer to go to one of the ones that were down here. And I remember we put we sent some information to, there's an app called Nextdoor, and basically it gives information in relation to the local community about what's happening. So I put up, you know, Black Lives Matter protest. Oh my gosh, the amount of racism here. The amount of people that put comments, I don't know why you're putting up that SHIT. No one wants to see it and all this. And then there was one lady who was really upset. She wasn't black, she was a white lady, but she was just so fed up of how comes, you know, this still exists, and she was like, this is a joke. Why does this rubbish still exist? But the man was basically trying to say, as far as he's concerned, George Floyd was a criminal anyway, you know, had previous convictions for this, that and the other. So yeah, you know, it was going to happen or whatever.
So that was an investigation.
Yeah, and then, you know what was so liberating? We made plaques and everything. And the day I remember we drove down there, we were sitting in the car having conversations, and I was kind of helping them not to relate to certain songs as well. So I'd gone through a few Bob Marleys and a few quotes from stuff, just showing them that actually, you know what, we've been fighting this for a long time.
Yeah, this is not new.
And so we got there and we were walking, and then obviously we started to see the crowd, and the boys were so liberated. I feel like they felt that they were being a part of something. And I was so blown away by the way in which there was a particular uni there were like uni young people who were leading it.
Yeah.
Came out there they didn't even come with a megaphone or nothing. They were just speaking from their voice, and the silence was just so respectful, and I was so honoured. And basically, then they were speaking, and then they were encouraging if people want to come up and talk. And I just felt compelled to, like, I had to go up there and I had to speak. And I've got the recording somewhere. But I just felt it was so necessary to allow my children to also see that we can do this together, though, innit?
Yeah.
And so it was like, I went up there, and then my son was just like, because they were both talking about going up, you know, but they still weren't really sure, you know.
Yeah.
So I went up there, and then they were like, Mum, you've done so good, Mum. I can't believe it. When we go, because we plan to go to another one.
Yeah.
And so they were like, when we get to the next one, I'm definitely going to speak, Mum, because I feel I needed to. So that experience was really good. And do you know what it did after? One of them, Kane, is he does what's this thing you call it? It's not rapping. What these English people do, is it rapping? Is that what you call it?
Real rap?
I don't know. Anyway, that my son does that, but he does it very positively. So all his lyrics are quite positive. So he done one specifically. He was talking about, you know, racism and how we're seen as people, and you know, and he always talks about his brother when he does his little raps. He talks about how he's got his brother's back and blah blah blah.
A little shout out in there.
Yeah, you know, but it was just really nice because I felt like their confidence since that time. Yeah, they're very sure who they are within themselves. And so they will come and tell me little stories of what happened and how they thought so and so was racist, but then how they've been able to deal with it in such a positive way. Yeah. So that's helped. I think with my daughter, she goes to a school which is quite funny. She goes to private school, but the private school, they have specific spaces for a lot of looked after children within the area. So and a lot of children on families on lower income. Yeah. So private. Yeah. So there is a lot of black children actually that go to the school. Okay. And I think I knew that she was going to go there. I just knew because since she was in year 6 when I made the application, God gave me the instruction to make that application. Yeah. Her school is not up the road, but it's near enough. And she got picked. There was 2 children, her and another child, who made the application from their school, and she's the one who got picked. So I knew she had to go there. And one of the things that I've been really happy with her since going to school, I feel like number one, she felt rather confident because she knew that there was a lot of children in the school like her. There is 1 or 2 teachers, but there's not very many. But the education has been so sound for her that it's allowed her to develop in her confidence, because when she was going to her primary school before, because she was so intelligent, I felt like they didn't push her enough. Yeah. So they didn't give her enough challenge. So she used to end up walking around the classroom and just talking and helping people do their work and all these things that she shouldn't have been involving herself in, but she couldn't help it because she was bored. Yeah. And so in relation to George Floyd, I was really comfortable to go to school and have conversations about it because everybody else was talking about it. And one thing that the school did do was they spoke about it. Yeah. I asked everybody how they felt about it as well, which I thought was quite important. And her school are very open to things. So, for instance, we were speaking about having an exhibition next year for Black History Month, and they were welcome. They were like, "Yeah, please, no problem. That would be great." You know, they'll show you the hall they want to give you and all sorts. Yeah. So,
also, they want to get involved.
Yeah, so it's really nice because I feel that they don't exclude anybody. They have different days. They'll have a multicultural day. They won't, even their cooking when it comes to
they're inclusive. Really good.
And it's really nice. And you see all the children there, they thrive. They started like in primary school. I think they start from year 3. And it's just really positive. And so in year 7, my daughter was adamant that she didn't like that school. But I just think it's because she was navigating her friendship. But pertaining back to what you asked, they had their experiences with it. It was a lot, but it was not more than what we were able to contain. But I just feel that it's brought about a difference within our society at the moment. Anyhow, I think we're not trying to be apologetic anymore. We're actually trying to be unapologetically black. It's just like,
and they're witnessing it, so that's cool.
It's grown. There's still stuff going on. The whole Rashford thing.
Exactly, the football thing.
It's not. But you know what? I feel like we're starting to make stands that we weren't necessarily.
Yeah, we're not
than they were before. So.
And in a way, it's a blessing in disguise because, like we said before, it used to be swept under the rug. It used to be hidden behind those doors. Now it's in the limelight. Now it's being exposed. So the more it gets exposed, the more it brings attention and awareness to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because not every white person is racist. We know that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So as long as those non-racist white people also stand up for, stop racism and all that stuff, we can all end it together. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not impossible, but we can try. And
I think it's really hard. I think it's really hard though, because
of course it's hard. It's not going to be easy at all.
The British system,
because I'm sure there's more racist people than non-racist people.
Yeah, and what it is as well is it's not just us, because if you see at most of the marches, there was a lot of white people, a lot of other races there. I feel like it is a thing of the system. So it's the system that's racist.
Yeah, the system. Yeah, because racist people working in the system anyway.
And so all the protocols make it that even when you get into something, you're still one of the minority.
Everything is in place basically to block. Yeah.
So all I say is that, you know what? If we can help each other to empower each other, my friend, she's got a quote that says it takes a village to raise a village. Yeah, and I feel like as much as it takes a village to raise a child, we need to raise ourselves as the village in order to be able to help to raise the child. Do you understand? And so I think it's about us collectively coming together as a people, kind of working through some of the issues we have with each other, with each other's cultures and whatnot. And putting our own stop to that and just saying, you know what, this is how we're going to function. And I think if we could get to that stage, because we're a powerful entity on our own without any other race. But we need to be able to understand it. And that's one of the things that, for me, has been so important in instilling in my children. No, I don't want my children to be those, unhumble children who, well, I'm black and I'm all that. And no, I don't want them to be like that. However, I want them to be confident in the skin that they're in. And
let anyone else kind of make them feel anything less.
Exactly.
That's really good, man. I'm so happy we got to this point and having this conversation. One more thing before we finish, before we end the show. I wanted to touch on your project, Hold It Down. Teach each other. Tell us about that.
Okay, so Hold It Down comes from all my experiences that I just spoke to you and some more. Within my life, I feel that I've always had to hold it down. So whether it be if I was at a school meeting, I had to hold it down, or whether or not a police officer stopped me and I had to hold it down when I was talking to him. Be aware, you're always having to hold it down, if that makes sense. And that's how I've almost programmed myself most of my life. So that's where the name came from, Hold It Down. And basically what I do is I empower young people to not just recognize the potential, but live in that potential. So a lot of youngsters, sometimes they will come and they'll say, oh, but you know what, I don't really know what I want to be. Okay, cool. So we'll start going off of what you like, what you really like. And then we build from there. So I do one-to-one work in mentoring. I also do programs and workshops that just help to build self-esteem. We do talk about healthy relationships and various other things. But we also have are raising a platform where young black children, specifically males, will be able to come and get some type of experience as well, like work experience and stuff like that. I'm in talks with quite a few reputable black companies, and it's great because we've now got a black directory and stuff, so it's so much easier now to be able to tap in. Since they've been doing this UK black directory and stuff, it now gives us our own platform of black businesses that actually have stuff that we need. So then being able to plug the young people into it is awesome.
What directory is that? What's the
they've got it. They've got it on Facebook as well. They've got an actual black directory that specifically has lists all black businesses. And so it's great because then what it allows you to do is already tap into a black-owned organisation. So the plan is for our children and our future generations to be able to see colour in everything that they do, in order to be able to give them the confidence and skills to say, do you know what? I can be a pilot. No, actually, I can be a lawyer. No, actually, I can be, instead of saying, do you know what, actually, I think I'll be a comedian or an athlete.
Yeah.
Or, do you know what I mean? All those common ones, or I'll be a footballer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just gives more scope. So yeah, I do that, and then under the umbrella of Hold It Down, we have an online talk show called Teach Each Other. Teach Each Other was basically supposed to be a online show for, and not even just online. We've met in person before, in a few bars and stuff, but it was supposed to be for parents. So where parents could come, we can discuss issues and create solutions for our community. It's now turned into not just parents, but because of this village raising a village, it's turned into a whole community thing. So we have had conversations where the youth have just been on the panel. We've had conversations where development of self. We've had conversations about relationships as well. Because these are all the conversations we need to have, conversations we need to have in relation to our village being an actual village.
It's all under one big, it connects to each other.
Yes, basically.
Yeah.
Because what we realize is, you know, we can help the young person to mentor, but then sometimes we also need to help the family to adjust and to get themselves into a space. One of the things I do find is a lot of other companies, they will mentor these young people, but then the young people, they mentor them for an hour and then they go back into the same atmosphere. That's causing them the issues in the first place.
And sometimes even the homes that they have to go back to.
That's what I'm saying. So because of their environment, so even though I do something with them and I help them, they then go back home to the same toxicness that they're trying to get away from. So we've done a lot of work with families. When I do work with families though, they have to sign a contract because I'm very intentional about what I'm going in there to do. So you can't be taking things personally and getting upset if I'm saying, do you know what, I think that you just need to add some nurturing or add some boundaries to your parenting in order for it to, you know, work. And
you're
so
not there
they
to
have
criticize them, you're just there to help. Basically.
Yeah, so the young person as well as the parent need to be willing to work with me. Usually the young parent is always on board. I've definitely had a few parents who have decided that they've got to the stage where, well, no, because sometimes they're not willing to visit. Sometimes in order to get healing, we have to revisit some of our past hurts.
Of course. You have to have difficult conversations in order to heal and move forward.
And bringing up that trauma sometimes can be too much for some parents who haven't yet felt that they're ready to
talk about it.
Talk about it. So in that sense, I will still be there for the young person. I just know that there's a limit to what I could do with them until they get to a certain age, but I'm always there. So there's some youngsters who I worked with at 14, they've kind of jumped back off the radar and then been able to still come back to me 3 years later and say, look, I've now got my own flat, actually I need help here, or I need, you know, and we've been able to offer and we've been then able to offer that service to them. So
that sounds good. That sounds good. So how does one get to be a part of that, or if they wanted to look you up, how would they find you?
So at the moment we're revamping the whole website, had to change to a few things. So I would say if there's any families or any parent, I don't like to call us single parents, I like to call us positive parents. So if there's any positive parent or one parent family who'd like to have a conversation or indeed get any type of mentoring, access to any workshops for their young people, they can get to me at holditdownuk@hotmail.com. If you just send me an email giving me just a little synopsis, then I can, and contact number, contact details, then I will arrange to come around and have a discussion and then do an assessment, which I don't charge for my assessments. They're quite free. They basically just go into me listening and making creating a solution and giving it to the parent, and if they agree, then we can start the work.
Is there a criteria that a family has to meet to get involved or be a part of?
Not really, just willingness. I think parents need to be ready, willing and able to accept and be able to cope with change, I suppose. Because a lot of it is and when I say change, you know, I don't mean change as in they're gonna have to change their house, or they're gonna have to, you know, But what they might need to change
for the change that's about to happen.
So they might have to change the way that they say something, or they might have to change how many times that they say that, or they might have to change the rewards which they give to that child, because you know, so they might have to tweak a few things.
Because you know what it is as well, I think maybe because you're gonna hide, they might not see what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? It will take somebody outside to kind of bring it to the forefront, and sometimes it might be shock to them because it's like they're facing the reality of what they didn't really notice until somebody else pointed it out to them. So if they're willing to accept and take that kind of, not even criticism, but advice or knowledge from somebody like you, then they will be the right match. I'm sure it'll be easier to work with them as opposed to someone that's going to be defensive and not willing to take any kind of help and support. Because
you know what? I would just say one thing as well. I think, you know, sometimes as parents, we can sometimes feel that we have nothing to learn, or we know what we're doing. I mean, there's no manual though. There is not a manual to be a parent. You are literally just winging it
on the spot,
until you learn through maybe the experience, whether it was good or not, until the children get to a certain age and you look and you're like, wow, okay, actually I can say no. Give yourself a pat on the back. But I would just say to any parents who might even be skeptical of having a conversation, it is a conversation. I can't tell you how to make your child good. I can't tell you that, you know, your child might not be rude to you again next week. But what I can do is I can give you steps and I can help to nurture the potential that I know that every parent can see in their child. Even if your child is one of the worst children that you think, I can guarantee to you that I can show you a child who's even worse. Do you understand?
And I don't think there's come out on top of that as well. Come out on top.
Yeah, and I don't think there's as such thing as a worse child, if that makes sense. You know, all of our children come with greatness, they come with weaknesses as well. Do you understand? And it's about us being able to help to just steer them in the right direction, and they've got a lot of pressure on them in relation to society.
Everyone comes from different directions. Everyone has a journey, has a path, and they've come from different, directions. So that when they get to the point where they meet you, your job is now to make sure that you do your best to steer them in the right path or on track, and guide them through difficult times. And you're not gonna, they might not be ready at that time, but you always got that door open for them to come back each time. Some kids are. There's the vulnerability between children. Everyone's different.
Yep.
And it's going to take time as well for them to even open up. Not every child is going to open up straight away. Not every child is going to want to. You get what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's funny as well because a lot of kids don't necessarily open up to parents, but I am definitely one of those mentors that manages to get young people to open up, even the ones who point blank will refuse to have a conversation in the beginning. That's fine, because I will talk for the whole session. It's fine. And the wickedest thing is, the majority of the things I say, it will cause them to want to have a conversation, even if they didn't want to have a conversation in the beginning. They soon as come around to a conversation, and it's like, actually she's not that bad,
It's all about making them feel comfortable to even want to open their mouth.
Exactly.
I tried to put myself in their position, because when I was a bit younger, I wasn't really a talkative kind of person, open up kind of person. I mean, I'm still not really an opening up kind of person, but I know how to socialize and things like that. Do you know what I'm saying? But as a child, you're kind of still you're learning and finding your way, especially if you're not someone that kind of talks a lot. Especially if parents don't really talk to have conversations with you. So I love it, man. This is great. What you're doing is really great, and I wish you all the best. And I'm going to put all the information and details on Hold It Down in the description on our social media. So if anyone wants to contact you, there's options of how to contact you. And we're coming to an end now. So I just want to thank you again for joining me on the podcast. This is the first episode of the second season, and we finally made it, and I can't thank you enough for being a part of it, Laverne. And
thank you again Thank you very much, man. And I hope that your endeavours with this, I think it's great to be able to have, as I said, a platform like this. Yeah, I wish you all the best, and anything that I can do, any events or anything like that I can bring my help with support in, or anything like that, you know where I am.
Definitely, yeah. I'll definitely be in touch. I do want to start something that I know that the lockdown, or we're not in lockdown no more, but we're able slowly to start creating events and putting things together. So once I'm thinking of putting an event together, because that was the whole point of doing the whole multiple experience anyway. But obviously because of the whole Corona thing, I'm trying to get back into that process of putting an event together and seeing what I can do. And yeah, definitely I would love you and your projects and your team, anything you're doing to be a part of it, to be honest. You know, the more the merrier. And yeah, we just want to work together, see each other grow, and you know, I wish you all the success. And then yeah, thank you. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
So, yeah.